Once upon a time, deep in the heart of a forgotten kingdom, there stood an enormous palace made of dazzling white marble. It was so huge that over the years it had become overgrown with moss and ivy. In fact, nobody even remembered when the palace had been abandoned. People only knew that this place was cursed. According to legend, if anyone stayed here for too long, they would fall into an eternal sleep and never wake up again. Because of that, everyone avoided the palace and no one dared to enter it. One day, however, a little girl named Ilara wandered away from the village where she lived, and when she realized she couldn't find her way back, she ran into the palace to hide. When the sky turned dark and the first raindrops began to fall, she slipped through an open window and found herself in a vast, dusty room. "Oh dear," she said aloud, "I hope my parents aren't worried about me." But no one answered, so she walked out of the room to see if she could find someone who could help her. As she looked around, she noticed a door that was slightly ajar. She peeked inside and gasped in surprise. There was a magnificent garden bathed in the most beautiful light. The little girl had never seen anything like it. Excited, she ran to the other end of the room and found another door that led her to the garden. Ilara spent hours playing among the trees until the sun began to set. Then, suddenly remembering her parents, she went back to look for the window she had come through. But much to her dismay, she soon realized that she had no idea where it was. As she walked through the maze-like palace, desperately trying to find a way out, she came across the door leading to the garden once more. Only now it was pitch black outside. "Help!" she cried, hoping someone would hear her, but no one did. Exhausted, she decided to take shelter in the garden. Just then, the wind picked up, causing the branches to rustle and whisper secrets to each other. Startled by the sound, Ilara began to cry. She missed her parents terribly and felt like she would never see them again. That's when the whispers in the trees suddenly stopped, and as if someone had pressed the pause button, everything around her froze. Startled, Ilara hid behind a tree and squeezed her eyes shut. Then, ever so slowly, the whispering started again, and this time the voices were much louder. "Don't be afraid," they said. "We won't hurt you." Their words were soft and sweet, like the singing of nightingales. And as Ilara listened, she realized that the voices were coming from the flowers. "What are you doing here?" she asked timidly. "Why do you talk to me?" One of the flowers rustled its petals and replied, "You're the first person to visit us in many years. We've been waiting for you." "But why?" Ilara asked, confused. "And what are you doing in this palace?" "Long ago," said one of the flowers, "our petals held the dreams of the people who lived here. But since no one has come to water us, we have withered and their dreams have been forgotten." Ilara felt sorry for the flowers and wanted to help them. "Can I help you?" she asked. "Of course," replied the flowers. "If you can bring us water from the lake outside the palace walls, we will blossom again and their dreams will come true." Without wasting a moment, Ilara ran to the lake, filled her skirt with water and brought it back to the flowers. Every day after that, she returned to the palace to water them. At first, they were all very weak, and some even wilted. But over time, with Ella's help, they began to bloom again, and their colors filled the entire garden. Not only that, but their whispers became clearer and stronger, revealing the dreams that lay dormant within them. One day, a yellow flower whispered, "I remember when I was still young, I dreamed of traveling the world. I wanted to sail across the wide ocean and explore distant lands." As Alara listened to its story, she realized that this flower used to belong to a sailor who had lived in the palace. He had loved exploring the world, but eventually grew tired of his adventures and settled down. But now his dream was fading away, just like the flower. However, as soon as Alara finished watering it, its petals perked right up. "Thank you," the flower said with a smile. "It feels so good to remember my dream again." Then another flower whispered, "I remember when I was alive, I dreamed of becoming a great healer. I wanted to use my knowledge of herbs and plants to help others and make them feel better. But as time passed, my dream began to slip away from me, and I almost forgot it completely. However, now that I'm blossoming again, I can feel my dream returning." Alara realized that this flower had once belonged to the royal healer, a woman who had dedicated her life to helping others. But as the kingdom fell into decline, she lost hope and her powers began to fade. As the days went by, more and more flowers blossomed, and with each one that did, their dreams came back to them. There was a red rose that had belonged to a warrior who dreamed of becoming king, an orange blossom that once belonged to a baker who dreamed of opening the best bakery in the world, and a purple violet that had belonged to a young girl who dreamed of becoming a famous singer. However, not all the flowers were so lucky. Some were too old and withered, and no matter how much water Alaric poured on them, they couldn't be revived. One day, as she stood among the flowers, she heard a voice that was weak and barely audible. "Help me," it whispered. "Bring me water before I forget my dream." Startled, Ilara looked around to see where the voice had come from, but she couldn't find its source. "Who's there?" she called out. "Over here," the voice whispered again, and this time she heard it coming from under her feet. Looking down, she saw a small sprout struggling to break through the hard ground. With great effort, she helped the sprout grow, and soon it blossomed into a beautiful blue flower. "Thank you," it said. "Now I can remember my dream." The blue flower told her that it had belonged to a young prince who had dreamed of restoring the kingdom to its former glory. But as the people around him lost hope, his dream began to fade as well. Now that he had been given a chance to blossom again, the prince's dream returned to him along with the strength to pursue it. News of the miraculous garden spread throughout the kingdom, and soon people began to return to the palace, each with their own hopes and dreams. Together, they rebuilt their lives, and the kingdom flourished once more. And so, thanks to the little girl who had stumbled upon the palace, everyone in the kingdom got another chance at happiness. As for Alara, she learned that sometimes the greatest adventures are the ones you never planned for.